Humanity was just a legend. Until their warfleet emerged from Deep Space Part 1. Whispers of the Lost Species. The stars looked different from the observation deck of Outpost Zeta 9. Commander Ilara Voss stood with her hands behind her back, watching the slow dance of distant suns. She had served the Galactic Consortium for 15 years, but lately, her mind kept returning to the old stories. "Commander, you requested these files?" A young officer approached, holding a datapad. Ilara nodded. "Thank you, Officer Lund." The files contained the oldest records in the Consortium archives. Most officials never bothered with them. Why look backward when 12 advanced species worked together to build a perfect future? But Ilara had always been drawn to the mysteries of the past. She scrolled through the ancient texts and stopped at the section that had become her obsession, the 13th species. According to legend, before the Consortium formed, another intelligent species had reached the stars. They called themselves humans. The records described them as adaptable, quick to learn, and dangerously unpredictable. Then, after a terrible war 300 years ago, they simply vanished. Most scholars believed humans had gone extinct. Others thought they were just stories to scare children. Behave, or the humans will come with their war machines. Ilara believed something else, something she rarely shared with others. "Commander Voss, Admiral Kraz requests your presence at the morning briefing," her communication device announced. She sighed and closed the files. The mysteries of the past would have to wait. The briefing room was filled with representatives from all 12 species of the Consortium. Some floated in suspension tanks. Others sat on specially designed chairs. A few stood like Ilara, who was from the Taraxian species, tall, blue-skinned humanoids known for their diplomatic skills. Admiral Kraz, a massive zenith with scale-covered skin and 4 eyes, looked annoyed as usual. "We have all received the expedition requests from the Science Division," Kraz rumbled. "I see no reason to waste resources on another archaeological mission to the outer sectors." Ilara stepped forward. "Admiral, the artifacts we discovered on the last expedition show clear signs of technology we've never seen before. They could be human artifacts?" Kraz made a sound like rocks grinding together, a zenith laugh. "Commander Voss, your fascination with fairy tales is well known, but we need our ships for real threats, not ghost hunts." Several officials nodded in agreement. Ilara felt her face grow warm, but she kept her voice steady. "With respect, Admiral, ignoring our history makes us vulnerable to repeating it." Before Kraz could respond, the door slid open. A thin, nervous-looking man with pale skin rushed in. Science Officer Alan Richardson was the only human-like species in the room besides Ilara, though his people, the Viridians, came from the opposite side of the galaxy. "Forgive the interruption," Richardson said, slightly out of breath. "We've detected something unusual." Kraz's 4 eyes narrowed. "This had better be important, Science Officer." Richardson activated the room's holographic display. A map of the galaxy appeared with a blinking red dot at the very edge. 3 days ago, our long-range sensors detected this energy signature in the uncharted regions. It disappeared before we could analyze it. "Equipment malfunction," someone suggested. Richardson shook his head. "Yesterday it appeared again closer, and today we detected multiple signatures, all moving in formation." The room fell silent. Formation meant intelligence. Intelligence meant ships. "How many?" Kraz asked. Richardson swallowed. "At least 50 vessels, Admiral. Possibly many more." Murmurs spread through the room. The Consortium hadn't faced an unknown species in generations. Their territory was considered secure. "And the energy readings?" Ilara asked, studying the display closely. "Unlike anything in our database," Richardson said. "The power levels are extraordinary." Admiral Kraz stood straighter, all signs of boredom gone. "Activate defense protocols across all border stations. I want a reconnaissance fleet assembled immediately." As officials rushed to carry out orders, Ilara motioned for Richardson to stay behind. "Those coordinates," she said quietly when they were alone. "They're coming from the same sector as the artifact we found last month." Richardson's eyes widened. "The device with the strange markings? I thought it was non-functional." It wasn't. Until last night. Ilara pulled a small object from her pocket. It looked like a simple metal cube, but one side now glowed with symbols no one had been able to translate. It activated on its own. And look at this. She pressed a section of the cube. The air above it shimmered, and a star map appeared, nearly identical to the one Richardson had just shown. "This can't be coincidence," he whispered. "Alan, I think they're coming back." Ilara could barely contain the excitement in her voice. "The humans, the lost 13th species." Richardson looked troubled. "If those are human ships, why now, after 300 years of silence?" "I don't know, but I intend to find out." Later that night, Ilara returned to her quarters. She knew she should rest before tomorrow's emergency meetings, but sleep seemed impossible. Instead, she connected to the station's private research network. Using her commander's clearance, she accessed the sealed records, the true accounts, of the Severance War, not the sanitized version taught in consortium schools. The records contained first-hand reports of human warfare that seemed too terrible to be true. Reports claimed humans had fought with a ferocity no consortium species understood. When outmatched, they didn't surrender but became more dangerous. They used tactics considered dishonorable or insane. They sacrificed themselves for strategic advantage. One report described a single damaged human ship destroying 3 consortium cruisers by deliberately causing its own reactor to explode. Another told of human soldiers continuing to fight with injuries that should have been fatal. The final records detailed the consortium's victory and the humans' retreat to unknown space. But something in the official account had always bothered Ilara, a sense that parts were missing or changed. Her screen suddenly flickered. For a moment, she thought the system was malfunctioning. Then a message appeared. "Access to these files has been traced. Caution advised. Not all eyes watching are friendly." The message vanished before she could respond. Ilara quickly disconnected from the network, her heart racing. Someone knew what she was researching and had risked breaking security protocols to warn her. A tone sounded from her communication device. "Commander Voss, please report to the sensor array immediately." Richardson's voice sounded strange, controlled but with an undercurrent of something she'd never heard from him before. Fear. The sensor room was dark, except for the glow of screens. Richardson stood alone, his face lit by blue light. "I called. Only you, because I don't know who to trust," he said without turning around. "The signals are clearer now. They'll reach our outer defense perimeter by morning." "Have you identified the ships?" Ilara asked. Richardson nodded slowly. "Not exactly, but I've been comparing energy signatures with every record in our archives, including the restricted ones." He glanced at her. "The same ones you were just reading. How did you— It doesn't matter." He pointed to his screen. "The propulsion technology these ships are using matches theoretical designs from old human war plans. Plans the consortium confiscated 3 centuries ago." Ilara leaned closer to the screen. "Are you certain?" "The basic principles are the same, but the execution is far more advanced. If these are human ships, their technology has evolved dramatically during their absence." A new alert flashed on the screen. Richardson tapped several controls, then stepped back in shock. "They're broadcasting," he whispered. A message was repeating across all frequencies, in all 12 languages of the consortium. The words appeared, on the screen one by one. "We are the fleet of Earth. We have returned. Prepare for contact." Ilara's breath caught in her throat. Earth, the human homeworld, long thought destroyed or abandoned. The legend was real, and it was coming. Humanity was just a legend, until their war fleet emerged from Deep Space Part 2, First Contact Protocols. 3 days passed in a blur of emergency meetings and military preparations. The Consortium Council remained divided on how to respond to the approaching fleet. Some wanted to greet the humans with diplomacy, others prepared for war. Ilara spent those days watching data streams and sensor reports. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, maintaining formation even across vast distances. They made no aggressive moves, but they didn't respond to messages either, except for their first announcement. Commander Voss, the Council has reached a decision. The message came from High Counselor Pella, the oldest member of the governing body. 15 minutes later, Ilara stood before the full council. Admiral Kraz glared at her from his position near the front. "Commander," Counselor Pella began, "your background in xenocultural relations and your unusual interest in human history make you our best choice for this mission." Ilara kept her face neutral, though her heart raced. "What mission, Counselor?" "First contact," Pella said simply. "You will lead a diplomatic team to meet with these visitors." Kraz stepped forward. "With proper military escort, of course. Lieutenant Kyle Brennan will command a security team to accompany you." A man in a gray military uniform stepped forward. He was from the Arcadian species, slightly shorter than Ilara, with copper-colored skin and alert eyes. Arcadians were known for their tactical minds and quick reflexes. "My team is ready, Commander," Brennan said, his voice cool and professional. Ilara nodded to him, then turned back to the council. "When do we leave?" "Immediately," Pella said. "The human fleet has stopped at the edge of the Proxima system. They appear to be waiting." The shuttle journey was tense. Ilara reviewed her notes while Lieutenant Brennan briefed his 6-person security team. Richardson had insisted on joining the mission as their science advisor. "Approaching visual range," the pilot announced. Ilara moved to the front viewport and gasped. The human fleet was massive. Dozens of ships filled the space ahead, ranging from nimble fighters to enormous carriers. The vessels were dark gray with minimal lighting, making them look like shadows against the stars. Many showed signs of battle damage, scorch marks, and patched hull sections that suggested years of conflict. At the center floated the largest ship any of them had ever seen. Its hull was covered with what appeared to be layered armor plates, giving it the look of an ancient sea creature. "The flagship is hailing us," the communications officer said. Ilara straightened her uniform. "Accept the transmission." The screen showed a woman with olive skin and short black hair. She wore a dark blue uniform with unfamiliar insignia. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes studied them with intense focus. "This is Captain Natalie Harper of the Earth Alliance vessel Horizon. You are cleared to dock in Bay 4. The transmission ended before Ilara could respond. "They're not big on conversation," Brennan muttered. "They don't need to be," Richardson said quietly. He was staring at sensor readings on his pad. "Those ships have enough firepower to destroy half the consortium fleet." Bay 4 was enormous, containing several smaller Earth vessels along with their shuttle. Armed human guards stood at regular intervals around the perimeter. They wore armored suits that enhanced their size, making them look more intimidating. A delegation of 5 humans waited as Ilara's team disembarked. Captain Harper stood at the front, flanked by officers in similar uniforms. "Commander Voss," Harper said, stepping forward. "Welcome aboard the Horizon." Ilara performed the traditional consortium greeting gesture. "Captain Harper, the Galactic Consortium extends peaceful greetings to Earth and humanity." Harper didn't return the gesture. Instead, she motioned toward a corridor. "This way. Admiral Reeves is waiting." As they walked through the ship, Ilara noticed small details that contradicted old records. The humans were not the primitive warriors described in consortium texts. Their technology seemed advanced, possibly beyond consortium standards in some areas. The ship's interior was utilitarian but well-designed. No wasted space, no unnecessary decorations. Everything served a purpose. The crew they passed worked with quiet efficiency, though many stopped to stare at the aliens walking among them. Lieutenant Brennan stayed close to Ilara, his hand never far from his weapon. His security team formed a protective circle around Richardson, who was recording everything with his datapad. They reached a large room with a circular table. Star maps covered the walls, showing consortium space in greater detail than should have been possible. A tall man with silver hair and dark skin stood studying one of the maps. He turned as they entered, revealing a face marked by old scars. "Commander Voss," Harper said formally. "This is Admiral William Reeves, Supreme Commander of the Earth Alliance Defense Fleet." Reeves assessed the consortium delegation with calm eyes. 300 years, he said, his voice deep and measured. It's been 300 years since our peoples last met. A historic moment, Ilara agreed. The consortium has many questions. I imagine you do. Reeves gestured to the table. Please sit. Once everyone was seated, Harper placed a small device in the center of the table. It projected a three-dimensional image of the galaxy, with certain regions highlighted in red. Let me be direct, Reeves said. We haven't returned for a social visit. We've been monitoring consortium space from afar. You have a problem you don't know about yet. Brennan leaned forward. What kind of problem? Infiltration, Harper replied. An enemy we thought defeated has returned. They work from within, corrupting governments and civilizations. Ilara felt a chill. What enemy? We call them Void Harvesters, Reeves said. You wouldn't know them by that name. They don't announce themselves. They take over minds slowly, subtly. By the time you realize what's happening, it's too late. Richardson was the first to make the connection. The lost records, he whispered. There are gaps in our historical archives from the time before humanity's disappearance. Because they've been erased, Harper confirmed. The Harvesters have agents within your leadership. They've been rewriting your history. Lieutenant Brennan stood abruptly. This is absurd. You expect us to believe invisible mind controllers are running our government? This sounds like an excuse for invasion. A new voice spoke from the doorway. It's no excuse, Lieutenant. Everyone turned. A human woman with short brown hair and intense eyes walked in. She wore armor different from the others, lightweight, and clearly designed for combat. This is Commander Samantha Wells, Harper said. Our head of special operations. Wells threw a data module onto the table. Evidence, surveillance we've gathered over 50 years. Communications between Harvester agents. Biodata showing neural pattern alterations in affected individuals. Richardson picked up the module cautiously. How do we know this isn't fabricated? You don't, Wells admitted. Yet. But you will when your own people start acting strangely. She looked directly at Ilara. It's already happening, isn't it, Commander? People making decisions that don't make sense. Officials with suddenly changed positions on key issues. Ilara thought of recent consortium decisions that had puzzled her, including the dismantling of long-range monitoring stations that might have detected the human fleet sooner. Even if what you say is true, she said carefully, why did humanity wait 3 centuries to warn us? Reeves and Harper exchanged glances. We didn't just retreat after the war, Reeves finally said. We were nearly extinct. The Harvesters targeted us first because we discovered them. We needed time to rebuild, to develop weapons that could fight them. And now? Brennan asked. Now we've detected increased Harvester activity in consortium. Space, Harper said. Their main force is awakening. We're here because this fight concerns us all. Wells leaned across the table. The legends got one thing right, Lieutenant. Humans are dangerous in war. But we're not your enemy. We're your only chance. As if to emphasize her point, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Harper touched her communication device. Report, she ordered. The response came through speakers for all to hear. Captain, we've detected anomalous energy signatures entering the system. Configuration matches Harvester scout ships. Reeves turned to the consortium delegation. It seems our old friends have noticed our reunion. His voice remained calm, but his eyes hardened. Now you'll see what we've been fighting all these years. Ilara and Brennan exchanged worried glances. First contact had just become first combat. Humanity was just a legend. Until their war fleet emerged from Deep Space Part 3, the archives of Earth battle stations, Captain Harper ordered. Around them, the ship transformed as crew members rushed to their posts. Admiral Reeves remained. Come and Captain, escort our guests to the observation deck. They should see this, Lieutenant Brennan protested. My team should return to our shuttle. The consortium needs to be warned. Communications are being jammed, Commander Wells said, checking a small device on her wrist. Standard Harvester tactic. They don't want word spreading. Harper led them through corridors now filled with purposeful activity. Humans moved with practiced efficiency, their faces set with determination rather than fear. The observation deck offered a panoramic view of space. Outside, the human fleet was changing formation. Smaller ships moved to protective positions while larger vessels powered up weapon systems. There, Richardson pointed to distant lights approaching. The harvester ships looked wrong somehow. Their hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved in strange patterns, sometimes appearing to flicker in and out of normal space. Only 4 scout ships, Wells noted. A reconnaissance force, not an attack group. Harper nodded. Typical. They're assessing our strength. On a nearby screen, they watched human fighters launch from carrier ships. The small craft accelerated at speeds that seemed impossible, executing maneuvers that defied normal physics. Your pilots, Ilara said, amazed. How can they withstand such forces? Neural interface systems, Richardson answered before any human could speak. He was studying the data scrolling across another screen. They're connecting directly to their ships. Harper looked impressed. You have good eyes, science officer. Outside, the human fighters engaged the harvester scouts. Energy weapons flashed across the void. One harvester ship vanished in a silent explosion. The Council needs this information immediately, Brennan insisted. Reeves considered this, then nodded. Agreed. Captain, prepare their shuttle for departure. Commander Wells, you'll escort them back to Consortium space. Wells looked surprised. Admiral? This is an opportunity, Reeves explained. Show them the archives. They need to understand what we're facing. The journey back was tense. Commander Wells piloted their shuttle herself, with 2 human soldiers as additional crew. The rest of the human fleet remained behind, engaging the harvester scouts. Where are we going? Ilara asked. This isn't the route back to Consortium space. Detour, Wells replied. We're taking you to Station Echo. It contains our historical archives. Richardson leaned forward eagerly. Original records from before the Severance War? Wells nodded. And after. Everything the Consortium tried to erase. Brennan remained suspicious. How convenient that these harvesters appear just as you arrive with warnings about them. Not convenient, Wells said. Inevitable. They've been monitoring us just as we've been watching them. The shuttle approached what looked like a small asteroid. As they drew closer, hidden hangar doors opened in its surface. A stealth outpost, Brennan said, professional interest overcoming his suspicion. No wonder our sensors never detected it. Inside the asteroid was a surprisingly large facility. Human personnel moved about their duties, many stopping to stare at the Consortium visitors. This station has been here for 50 years, Wells explained as she led them through secure doors. One of many we've established throughout Consortium space. You've been spying on us, Brennan accused. Protecting you, Wells corrected. There's a difference. They entered a vast circular room filled with data terminals. At the center stood a holographic projection system currently displaying star charts. An older human man with glasses approached. Commander Wells, these are our guests from the Consortium? Dr. Paul Jackson, our chief historian, Wells introduced him. Doctor, they need to see the truth. Jackson nodded gravely. Which part? There's too much for one viewing. Show them how it started, Wells said. Show them Earth. Jackson activated the central console. The room darkened and the holographic display changed to show a blue-green planet. Earth, Jackson said. Our homeworld as it was 400 years ago. The image zoomed in to show cities, oceans, and signs of a thriving civilization. When we first achieved faster-than-light travel, we discovered the early Consortium. Only 5 species then. We were welcomed initially. The display showed meetings between humans and alien species, the signing of treaties, the exchange of technology. Then we noticed inconsistencies, Jackson continued. Diplomatic missions that went missing, leaders who suddenly changed long-held positions. We investigated. The display shifted to scientific data, neural scans, and surveillance footage. We discovered the harvesters, a parasitic species that can attach to sentient beings and gradually take control. They had already infiltrated parts of the early Consortium leadership. Richardson studied the neural scans with growing horror. These patterns, they're similar to anomalies our medical teams have reported but couldn't explain. We tried to warn the consortium, Jackson said as the display showed human diplomats presenting evidence. But the harvesters had too much influence. They turned the other species against us. The hologram now showed the beginning of the war, human colonies burning, Earthships defending against consortium fleets. We fought back, Wells said quietly. We had to. The next images showed human warships using tactics that shocked the consortium visitors, ramming maneuvers, ships deliberately overloading their reactors, ground forces fighting with savage determination. The legends of human warfare weren't exaggerated, Ilara realized. We're adaptable, Wells said. When survival is at stake, we become whatever we need to be. The final war footage showed Earth itself under attack, its atmosphere burning. We couldn't win conventionally, Jackson explained. So we enacted the Exodus Protocol. We made it appear that Earth was destroyed and humanity was on the brink of extinction. The display showed massive ships, early versions of the fleet they had just seen, carrying thousands of humans into deep space. But we didn't just run, Wells added. Some stayed behind, living in secret. Others established hidden outposts like this one. We've been watching, gathering evidence, preparing for the day the harvesters would make their move. Why would these harvesters wait so long? Brennan asked. They're patient, Jackson replied. They think in centuries, not years. And they needed time to recover too. Our last strike hurt them badly. Richardson was examining the data more closely. These neural patterns match classified medical reports I've seen recently. Cases of consortium officials exhibiting unusual behaviors. How many? Wells asked sharply. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Richardson looked up with dawning comprehension. Including members of the High Council. Ilara felt cold dread settling in her stomach. Admiral Kraz has been pushing for aggressive action against your fleet since you appeared. Wells nodded grimly. He's likely compromised. The harvesters prioritize military leaders. We need proof, Brennan insisted. Something concrete we can take back. We have it, Jackson said. He handed Richardson a data module. Neural scanner technology. It can detect harvester influence in affected individuals. This is why you came back now, Ilara realized. You've developed a way to identify them and remove them, Wells confirmed. Without harming the host. Suddenly alarms blared throughout the station. A technician rushed into the room. Commander Wells, we've detected multiple ships entering the system. Consortium military signatures. How did they find us? Wells demanded. The technician looked grim. They're following a harvester beacon, coming from inside this station. All eyes turned to the consortium visitors. Someone here is compromised, Wells said, drawing her weapon. And they just gave away our position to the enemy. Humanity was just a legend, until their war fleet emerged from deep space Part 4. The infiltration. Everyone stay where you are, Commander Wells ordered, her weapon still drawn. Ilara, Brennan, and Richardson exchanged worried glances. The human? Soldiers moved to block the exits. This is a misunderstanding, Ilara said, keeping her voice calm. None of us would betray your position. Dr. Jackson picked up a small device from a nearby table. We can settle this quickly. This is a portable neural scanner. He held it up. It will detect any harvester presence. Wells nodded. Dr. Jackson, we'll scan each of you. Anyone who resists will be detained immediately. I volunteer to go first, Richardson said, stepping forward. Jackson held the scanner near Richardson's head. The device hummed softly, then displayed green lights. Clear, Jackson announced. Lieutenant Brennan went next. Again, the device showed green. Also clear. When Ilara's turn came, she felt a mild tingling sensation as the scanner activated. The lights remained green. Commander Voss is clear too, Jackson confirmed. Wells looked at Ilara's security team members. That leaves you 4. One by one, Jackson scanned the security officers. The first 3 showed no signs of harvester influence. Then the scanner reached the fourth officer, a quiet man named Roy Benson. The device flashed red and emitted a sharp beep. "Step away from him," Wells commanded. The other security officers looked shocked. Benson's face remained blank for a moment. Then his expression changed, becoming cold and alien. When he spoke, his voice had a strange echo. Too late. He moved with impossible speed, grabbing a weapon from one of the human guards. Before anyone could react, he fired at the station's main control panel. Alarms blared louder as systems began to fail. "Take him down," Wells shouted. The human soldiers fired stun weapons. Benson dodged the first shots with inhuman agility, but Lieutenant Brennan tackled him from behind. They struggled briefly before Wells fired a precise shot that hit Benson in the shoulder. He collapsed. "Restraints," Jackson called. The soldiers quickly secured Benson with special cuffs. "I never noticed anything unusual about him," Brennan said, breathing heavily. "He's been on my team for 2 years." "That's how they work," Wells explained. "The host remains functional, often unaware they're being controlled. The harvester only takes full control when needed." Station personnel rushed in to repair the damaged systems, but Jackson looked grim. "Too late. The beacon is active and he's destroyed the scrambler that could have blocked it." "How long do we have?" Alara asked. "Minutes," Wells replied. "We need to evacuate. Now." They boarded a different shuttle than the one they had arrived in. This vessel was smaller, but heavily armed and equipped with stealth technology. "What about your people?" Richardson asked as they prepared to leave the station. "They have escape pods," Wells assured him. "Standard protocol for compromised outposts." As their shuttle departed, they watched small pods launching from the station, heading in different directions. "Where are we going?" Brennan asked. "Back to Consortium headquarters," Wells said. "You have the neural scanner technology now. You need to find out how far the infiltration has spread." Their shuttle accelerated rapidly, then engaged its stealth systems. Behind them, Consortium military vessels appeared near the station. "They'll destroy it," Alara realized. Wells nodded grimly. "Standard procedure. The harvesters don't want any evidence of their presence to survive." Sure enough, the Consortium ships opened fire on the station. Within moments, the asteroid base was reduced to floating debris. "Those ships," Brennan said, watching the scanner, "they're ignoring the escape pods. Because they don't care about human survivors," Wells explained. "Their mission was to destroy the evidence and the technology. The neural scanners are what they truly fear." Several hours later, they approached Consortium space. Wells had remained silent for much of the journey, focused on piloting and evading detection. Now she turned to face them. "I can't take you all the way," she said. "A human ship appearing at Consortium headquarters would cause panic. I'll drop you at a transfer point." "What about Officer Benson?" Alara asked, glancing at their prisoner who was sedated in a secure compartment. "I'm taking him with me," Wells said. "Our scientists can study the harvester attached to him. Maybe find a way to remove it without harming him." Alara nodded. "Thank you." "There's something else you should know," Wells added. "We've detected unusual activity from Admiral Kraz since your departure. He's ordered a military response to the human fleet, claiming we attacked the Proxima outpost." "That's a lie," Brennan protested. "Of course it is," Wells agreed. "But if he's compromised, the harvesters will use him to start a war between our peoples. That would serve their purposes perfectly." Richardson held up the data module containing the neural scanner technology. "With this, we can prove he's been influenced." "If you can get close enough to scan him," Wells cautioned. "The harvesters aren't stupid. They'll keep compromised officials protected." The shuttle slowed as they reached the transfer point, a small automated Consortium relay station. "There's a messenger ship docked there," Wells explained. "It's programmed to return to Consortium headquarters. It will get you there faster than I could." Before they disembarked, Wells gave them each small communication devices. "These are untraceable. If you need to contact us, use them." She looked at each of them in turn. "What happens next depends on you. Either you expose the infiltration, or the harvesters start a war that will destroy both our peoples." The return to consortium headquarters was met with suspicion. Security forces immediately separated them for individual questioning. Ilara found herself in a sterile room facing two officials she didn't recognize. "Commander Voss," one began, "your actions have caused serious concern. You were instructed to deliver a message to the human fleet, not to spend days with them or visit unauthorized locations. There have been developments you need to know about," Ilara said firmly. "The humans have provided evidence of—" "We're aware of their claims," the official interrupted. "Admiral Kraz has briefed the council. The humans are attempting to sow discord within the consortium to weaken our defenses." Ilara tried another approach. "Where is Science Officer Richardson? He has important data to present." The officials exchanged glances. "Officer Richardson is being debriefed separately." Something in their tone made Ilara uneasy. "I need to speak with High Counselor Pella immediately." "The High Counselor is unavailable," the second official said. "Until further notice, you are relieved of duty and confined to quarters." As Ilara was escorted to her room, she noticed increased military presence throughout the station. Guards stood at every junction, and ships were being prepared for deployment. In her quarters, she found all communication systems disabled. The windows were locked into opaque mode, preventing her from seeing outside. She was a prisoner. Hours later, her door opened unexpectedly. Lieutenant Brennan slipped inside, looking tense. "We need to move quickly," he whispered. "They've taken Richardson and the neural scanner. They're planning to destroy the technology." "How did you get in here?" Ilara asked. "I still have friends in security," Brennan explained. "Not everyone believes the story Kraz is telling. Something's wrong, and people are beginning to notice." "What story?" "Kraz claims the humans destroyed the Proxima outpost, killing thousands. He's ordered the fleet to prepare for war." Brennan's expression was grim. "We have hours, maybe less, before the consortium attacks the human fleet. We need to find Richardson and the scanner," Ilara said. "It's the only way to prove the truth." Brennan nodded. "I know where they're holding him, but getting there won't be easy." "We have no choice," Ilara said, activating the communication device Wells had given her. "And we might need help." Humanity was just a legend, until their war fleet emerged from deep space. Part 5. Legends reborn moving through the corridors of consortium headquarters proved dangerous. Security patrols had doubled, and military personnel seemed to be everywhere. Ilara and Brennan kept to maintenance passages and service tunnels. "Richardson is being held in the medical research wing," Brennan whispered as they paused at a junction. "They're calling it a quarantine, claiming he was exposed to human bioweapons." "More lies," Ilara said. "How many people do you think are compromised? Impossible to know without the scanner. But something strange is happening with communication systems. All messages are being routed through Central Command for security reasons. Kraz is controlling what information reaches the public." The communication device Wells had given Ilara vibrated softly. She activated it, and a small hologram of Commander Wells appeared. "We received your signal," Wells said. "What's happening?" Ilara quickly explained the situation. Wells looked grim. "Captain Harper suspected this might happen. We've activated protocol disclosure." "What does that mean?" Brennan asked. "Remember when I said we've been watching the consortium for decades?" Wells smiled slightly. "We weren't just watching. We have people in place, and ships." The hologram changed to show a star map. Dozens of points of light appeared throughout consortium space. "Stealth vessels," Wells explained, "hidden in strategic locations, and operatives in key positions. They're mobilizing now." "Operatives?" Ilara was shocked. "Humans living among us." "Not exactly humans," Wells said. "Allies. People from various species who learned the truth over the years. Some are descendants of those who helped us during the original conflict." The hologram returned to Wells's face. "We're sending a team to your location. There's a maintenance access point on level 47, section C. Can you reach it?" Brennan nodded. "We can, but what about Richardson?" "Our people will handle that. Focus on reaching the extraction point." The transmission ended. Ilara and Brennan exchanged looks. Do we trust them? Brennan asked. Do we have a choice? Ilara replied. Level 47 was used for environmental systems maintenance and was largely automated. Few people had reason to visit it. This made it perfect for a covert meeting point, but also meant any presence there would be suspicious. They had almost reached the designated section when alarm klaxons began blaring throughout the station. Attention all personnel, a voice announced over the communication system. This is Admiral Kraz. Hostile human forces have been detected within consortium space. All civilian vessels are ordered to dock immediately. All military personnel report to battle stations. This is not a drill. They're starting the war, Ilara realized with horror. Brennan checked a nearby terminal. The fleet is mobilizing. They're targeting the human ships near Proxima. They hurried to the meeting point, a small maintenance bay with access to external airlocks. The door slid open as they approached, revealing a surprising sight. High Counselor Pela stood inside, along with 3 other consortium officials Ilara recognized from the science division. And with them was Richardson, looking tired but unharmed. Counselor? Ilara was stunned. How did you... There's no time to explain fully, Pela said. Richardson managed to contact me before they took him. He showed me the scanner data. The old counselor looked deeply troubled. Kraz is definitely compromised, as are at least 7 council members and numerous military commanders. We retrieved the scanner, one of the science officials added, holding up the device. But Kraz has convinced the military that humans are mounting an invasion. He's ordered attacks on any human ships. A nearby door opened and a maintenance worker entered. Except he wasn't a worker at all, Ilara realized, noticing the subtle differences in his appearance. Commander Wells sent me, the disguised human said. We need to move now. Our shuttle is docked at the external airlock. Where are we going? Brennan asked. To stop a war, Pela said simply. The human stealth shuttle moved swiftly away from consortium headquarters, its advanced technology keeping them invisible to sensors. Inside, Richardson worked with the science officials to prepare multiple copies of the neural scanner. We're approaching the fleet gathering point, the pilot announced. Outside the viewport, they could see hundreds of consortium warships forming attack formations. At their center was the command vessel where Admiral Kraz was directing operations. How do we reach Kraz? Ilara asked. That ship will be heavily guarded. We don't need to reach him, Pela said. We need to reach everyone else. The disguised human operative smiled. That's where our other assets come in. Throughout the consortium fleet, certain individuals began acting simultaneously. Communications officers, technical specialists, and even some command staff, people who had learned the truth about the harvesters over the years. They had remained silent, watching and waiting for this moment. Now they moved with coordinated precision, temporarily taking control of the fleet's communication systems. On the main viewing screens of every ship, including the stations back at headquarters, an unexpected broadcast began. It showed Pela with Ilara, Richardson, and the science team beside her. This is High Counselor Pela, she announced. What I am about to show you has been hidden from the consortium for centuries. The broadcast displayed the evidence from the human archives, the original harvester infiltration, the true reason for humanity's retreat, and finally, the neural scan data showing Kraz's infection. The humans have not come as invaders, Pela continued. They have returned to help us fight an enemy that has been manipulating us from within. Admiral Kraz and others are under harvester control. The war they want to start is not to protect the consortium, but to destroy both our civilizations. On the command vessel, Admiral Kraz ordered the broadcast cut off, but the damage was done. Doubts were spreading through the fleet. Ship captains began questioning their orders, and then the human fleet arrived. Their ships appeared suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, throughout the consortium formation. Not in attack positions, but in a defensive screen protecting the consortium's core. Worlds. The largest human vessel, the Horizon, positioned itself directly in front of Kraz's command ship. Captain Harper's face appeared on the communication screens. This is Captain Natalie Harper of Earth, she declared. We have not come to fight you, but to save you. Look at your long-range sensors. Consortium sensor operators obeyed, and what they saw chilled them. At the edge of their space, hundreds of ships with the distinctive harvester configuration were approaching, the main invasion force. While you've been preparing to fight us, Harper continued, the real enemy has arrived. They expected us to destroy each other, leaving them to take whatever remained. Richardson's voice joined the broadcast. Every ship has received a neural scanner design. Your medical teams can construct them immediately. Check your commanders. Find those who have been compromised. Across the fleet, confusion turned to action. Scanner devices were quickly assembled and used. To the shock of many crews, officers who had been acting increasingly aggressive or erratic were revealed to be under harvester influence. On Kraz's command ship, security forces surrounded the admiral. His eyes had changed, becoming darker as the harvester within him took full control. You fools, Kraz said, his voice distorted. They are already among you. They have been for centuries. Back on the stealth shuttle, Ilara watched as both fleets, human and consortium, began reorganizing to face the approaching harvester ships. Will it be enough? She asked. It has to be, Pela said. The human operative smiled. This isn't our entire fleet, you know. Admiral Reeves brought only our forward elements. The main Earth Defense Force is right behind us. As if on cue, space seemed to ripple behind the human positions. Massive ships, larger than anything either fleet had deployed so far, emerged from what appeared to be folded space. Leading them was a vessel that dwarfed even the horizon. The Sunbreaker, the operative said with pride. Admiral Reeves's flagship, the culmination of 300 years of human military development. Captain Harper's voice returned to the communication systems, addressing both fleets now. The legends about humanity weren't wrong, she said. We are dangerous in war. Today you'll see why. The combined fleets moved into formation as the harvester ships approached. Humans and consortium species prepared to fight side by side against their common enemy. Ilara looked out at the massive formation of ships, the legend of humanity made real before her eyes, not as conquerors, but as saviors. For 300 years they remembered, she said quietly. They could have forgotten us, built their own civilization far from here. Instead, they prepared and watched and waited, knowing someday we would need them. The first shots of the battle flashed in the distance as the forward elements engaged the harvester scouts. A war was beginning, but not the one the harvesters had planned. This would be a war for survival, fought by former enemies now united against a common threat, and the legends of humanity would be written anew.